I love Obsidian, but just like any other tool, it's not perfect, and I've made no secret of what I think Obsidian's weakness is. Here's me telling Obsidian CEO Stefan Ango about a year ago.
I think one thing that Obsidian is bad at that I really would love to see improved is sharing.
Now, sharing can mean different things. A few weeks ago, I talked about Quartz, a tool that addressed one aspect of sharing, publishing your notes online. But another aspect of sharing that Obsidian is bad at, though, is real-time collaboration. Despite the fact that I've switched over to using Obsidian for almost all my writing, I've still found myself using Google Docs anytime I want to brainstorm with someone. Just because it's really difficult to work on the same file in Obsidian at the same time as someone. Well, now there's a plugin for that. In this video, I'm talking about a new app that I discovered called Peerdraft. Peerdraft is a tool that brings real-time collaboration to Obsidian. I need to say up front that there is a forever free tier to Peerdraft, which lets you use it for 2.5 hours per month. But if you need more than that, you will have to upgrade to the Pro version, which is $30 a year and gives you unlimited time. Now, I personally think that that's reasonable, considering that also costs to host a service like that. And also, this is not sponsored. The developer Dominik Schlund reached out to me to tell me about it, but I wasn't offered any compensation to make this video. He knows I'm making it, but I don't get anything for it. I'm still on the free plan of Peerdraft myself. So here's how it works. There are two parts to Peerdraft. There is the community plugin for Obsidian, and then there is the Peerdraft web app. When you want to use Peerdraft, you open up the node in Obsidian, and then you start a shared session within the community plugin. And that sends over the information over to the Peerdraft web app, which essentially acts like a mediator. It gives you a link that you can send to somebody else. That person will then connect to you. It's a peer-to-peer connection, but via the Peerdraft web app. Now let's go over how to actually install and set up Peerdraft for the first time. I am on my Obsidian vault, and I'm going to go over to community plugins, and I'm going to search for Peerdraft. I had previously installed this in another vault, but I'm installing it on this one now. I'm going to go ahead and enable that. Now I found that I had to restart Obsidian in order to be able to use Peerdraft, so I'm going to do that right now. Okay, now upon restarting Obsidian, I am immediately asked for my name. So I'm going to put my name, and this is a little weird. I was looking for like a button to click. You just hit X. And then you should be able to go into settings and go to Peerdraft to see the options. So as you can see, I am on the free hobby plan, and I've used Peerdraft for 0 minutes because I just installed this. Now, if I wanted to use my existing subscription, then I would just put it here and click connect. But I don't really have that, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to create a new note. We'll call it Peerdraft demo. And let's say that I want to send this note goes to Peerdraft. Then I would just open up the command palette. So that's controller command P, type in Peerdraft, and I'm going to start shared session. And it says here that the link has been copied to my clipboard. So this is the point where you would typically send the link to a collaborator. Now it's just going to do this on my own so that I could kind of pretend that I'm somebody else, then show you both screens. But then I thought, what's the fun in that? So I actually invited my good friend Leah Ferguson along to test this out with me. Leah is a moderator of the Obsidian community. She has her own YouTube channel and a link to her site as well in the description below. We've got our vault here for Beyond the Character Sheet. Beyond the Character Sheet is a new YouTube channel that Leah and I are starting. Well, have started. Have we put things in it? I don't even
We
remember
have,
anymore.
but we haven't wrote about it ever and literally haven't shared it. So I don't know. It's Schrodinger's YouTube channel at this point. But yeah.
Yeah, it's there, but maybe it's not. But we are going to be we're going to be recording something right after this, and this is us actually typing out the talking points for what we're going to talk about. I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about Peerdraft, which is a plugin that I think I briefly showed you already, but we
You
had some issues with that.
did. Well, I mean, we didn't have issues so much as I was really excited to try it out. I opened the link that you sent me, which you'll send me for this note. And then I kind of walked away because I got sidetracked by my dog, as you do. And when I came back, you were sharing with another person and you were having a conversation in the note, but you didn't know I was there because there was no indicator to show that another person had joined the session. And so I wound up being like just a creepy lurker accidentally without you knowing that I was there until I talked with you afterwards, which is like, it's a really interesting conundrum because it shares so well, but also perhaps a little too well in that case. The good news is,
Yeah.
from a privacy standpoint, only the people who will be there have the URL. So you are keeping that from a privacy standpoint. But you didn't know I was there.
Yeah, so I knew that I'd sent it to two people. I sent it to
Mhm.
Leah and I sent it to Andy Pillane, who's also been on the channel. And we were just messing around. I really just wanted someone to test this out with me. And so it's not that I didn't know that you were going to be able to come and see what was there, but I did sort of expect like some sort of notice that like, oh, Leah's entered the chat or something like that.
And not just me actually going, "Hi, guys, I'm here," but even on Google Docs
Which
where
you
it has
didn't.
I didn't. I'm so sorry. I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm a creepy lurker." But on Docs, think about, like, how great something like Google Docs is where even if you don't have an account, you're an anonymous aardvark. You know that
Yeah.
someone else is in session with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me show you what it's like to actually do this. So, oops, peer draft. So I just did command P or control P, and I've already installed peer draft. It is an Obsidian plugin. It's free, and I just have to go to the note that I wanted to share with Leah, which I already am at, and then I just have to select start shared session. And so that link is copied to the clipboard, and then I just have to go to my browser and oh, actually, I'm going to send that to you. So I'm sending that to you on Discord, Leah. But I'm also going to join it a second time just so we can see it on one pane, on one screen. So I'm Anonymous23. I'm going to change it to Nicole.
I'm now Leah on there, and what we can see already in this note, even though it's not visible on your screen, is our properties. Because it looks like you have your properties hidden in your Obsidian vault,
I
but
do. Okay, so let's start typing something. Okay. So do we do like a section for you and a section for me?
sure, that would work.
Are we going to tell each other what we're doing? So
Oh
let's
gosh,
see what happens if I start typing.
I see a hello. I see live, and I'm gonna just wave back and hi.
There aren't any
Mhm.
permissions. This isn't a way to just share a read-only file. Like if you share this file with someone, they'll be able to do whatever they want.
Although I suppose this is a good point to say a backup system in place, just generally
Yes.
for all of your notes. And I
Yeah.
say that as someone who's worked with the Obsidian community a lot. Uh, these are typically computers, so they back them up the same way you do, same file.
Okay, I'm typing my games.
One thing I'm missing here, working in the browser and not in Obsidian, is it doesn't, obviously, I'm an Obsidian user, so I have certain hotkeys that I like. And I have one where I can go
Yeah.
through and reorder through and quickly. I can't do that in a browser because it's an artificial experience of Obsidian, but it's really cool otherwise.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So right now, one person has to be on the browser and the
Hmm.
other person has to be on Obsidian. You can't both be in the browser. Well, no, you can't both be on the browser. Someone has to start the shared session from Obsidian. You can't start it from the browser. And once I close this, which we'll see in a second, then
Hmm.
you just won't be able to do stuff in it.
Yes, one thing worth testing then it's entirely browser based, you're saying. I can't install the plugin and do it from Obsidian as well, because I guess
Not
that's no,
yet.
not yet. Because I guess that's
I have asked for that from the
yeah.
developer. So maybe I'll try to stop this peer draft, stop shared session, and then we can see. It says it stopped for me.
And on my side, in the browser, I have session stop by document owner. And so
Okay.
now any
Can you still
changes I
do
make,
stuff?
I'm still doing things. I'm getting a
All right.
pop-up
I'm
on
not
my
seeing it.
side. Yeah, neither am I. So basically anything I continue to do now, if I somehow like click through that pop-up and ignored it, um, it doesn't get saved to the note. So that's good to know.
Okay.
It'd almost be nice if
Yeah.
there were a dialogue to say, hey, local changes aren't saved.
Yeah. Real quick, after we recorded that video, there's been a change to the Peerdraft web UI. It's not a huge one, but I still wanted to show you because I think it's pretty cool. This is what it looks like now. Before, when you would share a note with someone, they would see something like this, the editor on one side and the preview in the other. This used to be what Obsidian looked like too. And you can still do that, as you can see I'm doing that here, but it actually defaults to this view where it is just the editor. But it's like a live preview editor, which is again closer to what Obsidian ended up doing. So now, for example, you no longer see the hashtags on headings unless you're specifically on that line. The bullet points are rendered. The only thing that I'm not seeing are rendered are the checkboxes, so it still shows the markdown syntax for them rather than the actual checkbox. Of course, if you go to preview, you'll still see them as checkboxes. So not a huge deal, but a really nice upgrade. So that's what Peerdraft is like to use. It's pretty cool. But let's talk about the alternatives to Peerdraft, the incumbent options. First, we already mentioned Obsidian Sync. This is the official paid plugin for Obsidian that adds a file syncing service, but also includes collaboration features that include live editing. In practice, though, it doesn't really work well. Leah and I tried that too. She's got Obsidian Sync and I've got Obsidian Sync. This is one of the issues with it is that it won't work unless you both are paying for the service. And even when you are, we didn't find that it was as good as Peerdraft. Here's what that looks like.
A challenge for that is like right now, you and I are sharing this vault already with Obsidian Sync. You and I have Obsidian Sync, like our own paid subscriptions, and that allows us to be able to share this vault between us. I
Yeah.
wonder what that would be, if that would cause problems if we're already sharing with Obsidian Sync and then also it's sharing with Peerdraft. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that delete shot and see what.
Okay, saw that.
Okay, going to delete the file.
But a few times we have tried to do something else and it didn't work out very well.
Yeah, like I just typed in Raven, which is a system that I backed on Kickstarter.
Where is that?
On Kickstarter. Well, it hasn't because you were typing at the same time. And so
Oh,
you and I have a clash now. I don't see what you're typing, and you haven't seen what I'm typing. I'm
yeah.
being told it's fully synced as well on my side. So interestingly, I just synced on my end, and I see your "Where's the Raven?" But my Raven, anything I just typed to my section just got deleted.
Yeah, see, this wouldn't have happened on Peerdraft
No, it wouldn't have.
because it was
So
just
I'm
like instant.
Yeah, and I've just typed now, and so it's syncing on my side. And it's
Oh,
synced, and yep, there you go on
okay,
your side
now I
now.
see it. Yeah. But that's because I was like waiting for you to
Yeah,
type.
yeah. And how we dealt with this when you and I were first working on generating ideas like topic contents was you were working on one episode idea list, like not even a script, but just like ideas. I was working on another. And so we were able to talk, but we weren't able to talk about the same talk. So it wasn't really a productive brainstorming conversation because we weren't able to truly collaborate. Whereas
Yeah.
with Peer Draft, and we're goofing around, but we could actually and will and like, figure this list out, right? And there are other ways. I suppose users could collaborate. I mean, it could even be as, and I say simple. It's not necessarily, but really have a shared Google document, go through, type it out, and paste it into your vault. But at that point, you're not
Yeah.
using Obsidian. So why would you use Obsidian and Google Drive, right?
Yeah. Or even Dropbox. So if I
Mhm.
shared this folder with you, then I have done that in the past with other people, and it doesn't have that issue with Obsidian Sync where if the other person's typing, then the other person's stuff gets lost. So it is better from that perspective, and it would mean that we can both keep working on Obsidian, but it's still not like real-time collaboration the way the peer
Yeah.
draft just was. Another alternative to Peerdraft, other than Obsidian Sync, is something called Etherpad. Now, a bit more than a year ago, I released a video about another community plugin called Obsidian Etherpad Lite. You may not have seen this because I only released it to Patreon. Patreons get early access to a bunch of things and tools that I've made, templates that I have for normal use cases and also for TTRPG, but they also get a playlist of videos that are only ever going to be for Patreon. So if you'd like to join that and support me, then here's the link to that. But I didn't publish it because the experience for Etherpad was not as seamless as I was hoping for. To use Etherpad Lite with Obsidian, I had to first host my own instance of Etherpad Lite, which, okay, is fine, but a lot of people would balk at that. And then you'd have to go into Obsidian, push the note to Etherpad, send the collaborator the link to it, then modify it on the Etherpad web app, go back to Obsidian, pull those changes in. So it wasn't really real time. It was like sending the contents of the note to Etherpad, modifying it there, and then pulling it back to Obsidian. So I didn't really like it. And when I compare Peerdraft to Etherpad and Obsidian Sync, well, it's kind of hard not to see the benefits. But let's talk about the limitations of Peerdraft. First, it's closed source with no options to self host it. Because of this, I personally wouldn't share anything confidential with it. It's also only for Obsidian to web browser, so you can't do Obsidian to Obsidian or web browser to web browser. Maybe that's something that will be worked on in the future, but it's not possible right now. So even in my case and Leah's case, we actually both use Obsidian, but we couldn't use Obsidian with Peerdraft for not at least not at the same time. One of us has to use Obsidian and one of us has to use the web browser. It's also real time only, so the notes don't persist on the Peerdraft server once you've stopped the sharing session, which may actually be a positive thing for you depending on your use case. And then you can see during the session who's typed what, but there's no way to see this after the session's over. I was kind of thinking that IA writers proposed markdown annotation syntax could be a cool way to address this so you can see, even after the session's done, who wrote what. And the last thing was, as I found out with my friends Leah and Andy, there's no notification when a new collaborator joins the session. So just be careful who you send the link to and what you're doing on the note when they come and watch. Here's a quick interview with the developer of the plugin for more information and context on why he created this and who it's for. I'm here today to talk to the developer of the Peerdraft plugin for Obsidian and also not just a plugin, right? A web app. Dominik Schlund.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm Dominik. I did the Peerdraft plugin. I did some other plugins before that. In real life, I'm a product manager for software products. Yeah,
Why did you make Peerdraft?
these days it's pretty much standard that when you have a meeting, especially like it's always remote, most of the time at least, you have these remote calls, and then it's pretty much standard that you work on notes together, or at least that everyone has to, see them so that everyone's on the same page and sees what's being written, and um, to-dos written down, and so on and so forth. There was always this thing that you kind of had to start somewhere else, or you have a template in Obsidian, then you copy and paste it to, I don't know, Google Docs or something like that, and then you write it there collaboratively, and then after that you copy and paste it back. And there was no really good way to do this, and a simple way, and so I just thought, okay, I'll see how hard or how easy it would be integrate something like that in a plugin.
So can you
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about how Peerdraft works?
maybe one of the most important things is that it's communication is via peer-to-peer. So this means that there is not one central server controlled by someone, well, in this case me, who's where all the information basically flows back and forth, and I could potentially read it and peek into your documents. When you start a sharing session, and you get a link with some secret in it, basically, so some unguessable link with an ID to your document, and then you can provide this link to the people you want to collaborate with, and then yeah, they click on it and go on a web app, and then what happens is that my server is only involved in establishing the communication, so in basically finding your peers over the web, and then all the content of the document and all the changes, they are just interchanged directly between the browsers, basically, and Obsidian via WebRTC, which is yeah, standard peer-to-peer protocol, end-to-end encrypted.
What kind of data, if any, is stored or passes through the server? Is it IP addresses or usernames?
What's passing on my end is obviously, like, if you start a session, then I can see who's starting it, and kind of like the metadata. So I see when you started, I see when you log off. What I do not see is any content.
And all of that metadata, does that get stored or does it get wiped after the session ends?
I actually store it right now because there's like a paid tier that you have to enter above some certain amount of collaboration of a certain duration, and so that's why I basically store how long your sessions are, so that I do know how the usage is.
I did a live session with a friend of mine where we were editing something live together, and we are both Obsidian users, but she had to use the web app instead of being able to do it in Obsidian. Is this coming?
The two most requested features is well, one is it's a very general feature of please can we have like a better editing experience, what with a web editor. That's one thing many people requested, which I did some work on already, and then that's like maybe the highest, what was the highest thing on my list. And the second thing is yeah, exactly what you said, Obsidian to Obsidian collaboration, which shouldn't be that hard actually, and that's probably a mistake for me to say.
Do you
Yeah.
have any plans to extend the service beyond real time, so be able to collaborate asynchronously?
Yeah, this is maybe number 3 on the requested features.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet if and how and when I'm gonna tackle this. So right now I'm gonna focus on the real time and make this as
Fair enough.
and make the editor better and make Obsidian to Obsidian work. And if this works and I get positive feedback and people are using it and saying, well, I really like it, but can you please add async as well, then I'm gonna consider.
It's rare that I can actually reach out and talk to the developer and, ask all of these questions. So I really appreciate it. So
Well,
thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Peerdraft isn't perfect, but it is really good at something Obsidian is natively pretty bad at, and that's working on a node together with someone else online at the same time. There's very little latency, it's light on setup, and it just works. And given the dearth of alternatives, that's really all I need. And if that's what you're after too, then I encourage you to give it a go on peerdraft.app. Thanks for watching. Oh, e comecei a aprender português novamente.